Let me ask you is this, how does imagining lead to creating? How do you go
I
how do you
have an
go from
example
one
that
step to
I'd
the
love to
next?
share.
Let's hear it, Will.
Well, so I really believe that if you're going to be successful as a creative artist,
Mhm,
you have to incorporate creativity into your whole life. I
mhm,
don't think it just starts when you look at a piece of paper and sit down to draw. I think I think you use creativity to solve lots of problems in your life. So, for instance, I had a teacher who actually explained this one time when I was in school, when I was in college, who said, um, "You guys are artists," and this was one of the best talks I ever got. All of you guys are artists. That means you're different than most everyone else. You're trying to become a professional artist, so you should look at the world differently, and you should look at problems differently than most people. Most people in the world are content to let other people solve their problems, to look for a solution. And if the solution isn't out there, like you go to the store to buy something to solve a need or a problem that you have, right? And
mhm.
if it doesn't exist, oh well, you can't solve that problem. But he said, you guys need to be able to make an item, make something that will solve your problem. So you guys have seen like all the redneck solutions on Google, right? Like
Yeah.
for like fixing things, right? Like the rope that you pull back and forth between your in your car to get the windshield wipers to work when they're broken and stuff, you know. They're tied onto the windshield wipers, you know, just stupid stuff like that.
Yeah, lots
But
of baleen wire and duct
that
tape.
talk right. But that's those are creative solutions and they shouldn't, even though they're ghetto, they shouldn't be overlooked as you solve the problem. So he was kind of basically trying to explain that to us. And I remember there's a lot of things that I have created since just hearing that talk. Like I've looked at the world differently. Like, oh yeah, if I need something, I'll make it. And one thing that I made was before GoPro ever came out. You know, me and my family, we were always into snowboarding, and I would take my boys up and we'd go snowboarding for the day. And I remember thinking, I want to get camera shots from the board, from low angle, where I would attach my camera down on the board because it would look really cool.
Mhm.
And I had a digital camera, one of the first digital cameras that came out, but I didn't want it to get all wet with snow and slush and everything. So I took a goggle case, a clear plastic goggle case that my racquetball goggles came in, and I cut it and I modified it and I I heated it up so I could bend it, and I ended up making that clear plastic case that GoPro kind of uses. I mean, it didn't look anything like theirs; it was ugly.
Yeah,
Right, but it
It's
but it
served the
worked.
same
rudimentary little
It
purpose.
worked.
GoPro
Yeah.
thing. Oh, but it worked like it worked like a charm. I bought Velcro stickers to stick on the case and put a sticker on my snowboard, and I could just stick it on with Velcro, and it worked like a charm. And then like 2 years later, GoPro came out, and they made millions and millions, and then billions of dollars. And I was like, I could have done that. You're looking at the guy who could have been the creator of GoPro.
No,
But
I think that's true. I
as
think
far
that's
as
true
your
to a lot of an extent. I mean, you can't just be creative all of a sudden for 1 hour in the evening. It's gonna show up all over the place. It's kind of funny that
yeah
you say that because I've never really tied that in to how I think about illustration. But there's a couple of examples I remember as being a kid. I remember one thing in particular. Went to summer camp one year, and we had this creative hat. Each day of the week was a different day of the week. A
Mhm.
patriotic day and whatnot. And one of them was Creative Hat Day, and I was like, I don't have any creative hats or anything that's even remotely interesting. And I thought everybody was going to be making their hats, and so show up day of Creative Hat Day, and everybody just bought, like, there's a big sombrero and, like, some funny off the shelf hats that people had.
Mhm.
But I had built, because I didn't know that people wouldn't be making it, I had a fully working train set that I had made into a hat, that it had a drivable train and everything plugged in. And it was so much fun. But it was just so different as I was standing there in the row of
Mhm.
people competing in Creative Hat Day. I was like, okay. I mean, if you took the picture, it would definitely, this one kid thinks a little bit differently than the
Right.
rest of this
Right.
group.
One of
But I
these
did well.
kids is not like the other.
For better or for worse. I also remember at Art Center doing a project where it was a semester-long industrial design project, and it had to do with representing LA, but
Mhm.
and you had to, all different majors were in there, and so I'm an illustrator, and so I'm doing stuff around LA and landscape paintings and bringing in a lot of that glitz that's so funny about LA. If you haven't lived in Los Angeles, it's a very strange place if you're there for enough time. And being in the freeway, and so I compiled just my whole experience of being in LA, both the art side of it, but then also all the other side of it. And by the end of it, I had a book that was a remote control drivable book, and so I could drive it into the final critique, and and it was just the epitome of LA. It was all furry and kind of glam. It had sequins all over, but you could actually drive it. It was remote control.
Uh-huh.
And so, that stuff plays out all over the place outside of illustration.
That's really cool. So I like that it's seeping into other aspects of your life. Like you're not just being creative on the page, but creativity is happening elsewhere. So what is it that you guys do that help you to think, I guess, think outside the box? Is it that, number one, you're going to solve your own problems? Is that would that be like principle one?
Yeah, I think for me, for sure, you have to give yourself permission. Like a lot of people that I've bumped into or talked to, even family members, are like, what made you think you could just do this? Or what made you think you could just do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think giving yourself permission, and even that, like in a movie, there's what do they call it? The turn or something, where something happens in the character's life that is makes them think differently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
the call to adventure,
but basically the call to adventure. Maybe that's it.
Call to action.
But basically, when
call to action.
Yeah, when my teacher said that, when he basically gave me permission to create stuff, and was like, oh, so you can just solve problems. That was huge. That was a huge turning point in my life.